The desperate signal captain, Elena Rodriguez, stood on the bridge of the UES Determination, watching the stars drift past the main view screen as her ship cruised through the outer rim of the Centauri system. The exploration vessel was one of Earth's newest ships, equipped with the latest scanning equipment and a crew of 200 dedicated scientists and military personnel. They had been conducting routine surveys of potentially habitable worlds for the past 6 months, mapping new star systems and searching for signs of life. Rodriguez was a career military officer who had spent 15 years working her way up through the ranks. At 42, she had seen combat in the Mars colonies during the rebellion and had earned a reputation for making tough decisions under pressure. Her black hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her dark eyes constantly scanned the bridge instruments, always watching for anything unusual. The bridge was quiet, except for the gentle hum of the ship's engines and the soft beeping of various monitoring systems. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen sat at the communications station, monitoring deep space frequencies for any signs of intelligence signals. As the ship's xenobiologist and communications expert, Chen had been hoping for years to make first contact with alien life. He was a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses who approached everything with scientific curiosity. Commander Sarah Blake, the ship's tactical officer, reviewed navigation charts at her station. Blake was a former Special Forces operative who had transitioned to space service after the establishment of the Earth Defense Fleet. Her military bearing and sharp blue eyes made it clear she was always ready for trouble. She had short blonde hair and several small scars on her hands from her combat days. The routine patrol was interrupted when Chen suddenly sat up straight at his station, his fingers flying across the control panels. His face went pale as he adjusted the frequency settings and boosted the signal strength. The sounds coming through his headset made him remove them quickly, his eyes wide with amazement. "Captain Rodriguez, you need to hear this immediately," Chen said, his voice tight with excitement and concern. "I'm picking up a transmission from deep space, but it's not like anything we've ever encountered before. The signal is incredibly complex and definitely artificial." Rodriguez walked over to Chun's station, her boots clicking on the metal deck. She had learned to trust her crew's instincts, especially when it came to unusual discoveries. Chen was not the type to get excited over normal radio interference or equipment malfunctions. "Play it through the bridge speakers," Rodriguez ordered, crossing her arms as she prepared to listen. The sound that filled the bridge was unlike anything the humans had ever heard. It was a mixture of harmonic tones, mathematical sequences, and what sounded like multiple voices speaking in completely foreign languages. But underneath the alien sounds, there were familiar elements that any scientist would recognize: prime numbers, physical constants, and basic mathematical relationships that would be universal to any intelligent species. "This is incredible," Chen whispered as he worked to analyze the signal. "Captain, this is definitely from an alien intelligence, and they're using mathematical principles to establish basic communication. But there's something else. This signal is being broadcast on multiple frequencies simultaneously, and it's incredibly powerful. Someone is using enormous amounts of energy to send this message as far as possible." Commander Blake moved closer to listen, her tactical training making her focus on the implications. If they're broadcasting this strongly, they either want to be found very badly, or they're in serious trouble. Rodriguez nodded grimly. "How long will it take you to decode the message, Chen?" "Give me 2 hours, Captain. I'll need to run it through our language processing computers and compare it with our theoretical alien communication models." 2 hours later, Chen called Rodriguez back to the bridge. His face was grim as he prepared to share his findings. The entire bridge crew had gathered to hear what the alien message contained. "Captain, I've managed to decode most of the transmission," Chen began, his voice heavy with concern. "It's a distress call from something called the Zarian Coalition. They represent 47 different alien species spread across this part of the galaxy. They're being systematically destroyed by an enemy they call the Void Swarm." Rodriguez felt a chill run down her spine. "Destroyed? What do you mean?" "According to the message, the Void Swarm has already consumed 23 star systems in the past 3 months. Entire worlds have been stripped of all life, and billions of beings have been killed. The Coalition has lost most of their fleet, trying to fight this enemy, and they're facing complete extinction." The bridge fell silent as the crew absorbed this information. First contact with alien life was something humanity had dreamed about for generations, but no one had expected it to happen like this. "Why are they contacting us?" Blake asked. "Earth isn't part of their coalition. How do they even know we exist?" Chen looked at his notes, then back at the captain. "That's the most interesting part. They specifically mention humans in their message. They call us the Deathworld Warriors and say we're the only species they know of that might understand what they're facing. They've been monitoring our radio signals for decades, studying our history and our wars." Rodriguez frowned. "Our wars? What do they mean by that?" "They mention our conflicts throughout history. The world wars, the various regional conflicts, even the Mars Rebellion. They seem to think that our experience with warfare makes us uniquely qualified to help them fight the Void Swarm. Most of the Coalition species have never fought a real war." Commander Blake stepped forward. "Captain, if they are right about this Void Swarm, and if it's moving through the galaxy destroying everything in its path, then Earth could be next. We might be fighting for our own survival as much as theirs." Rodriguez walked to the center of the bridge, her mind racing through the implications. Earth's government didn't even know about this transmission yet. By the time she could get word back to Earth and wait for orders, it might be too late to help the Coalition or to prepare Earth's defenses. "Chen, does the message include coordinates for where we can find them?" "Yes, Captain. They're broadcasting from a location about 3 weeks away at maximum speed. They've also included star charts and navigation data." Rodriguez made her decision. She had spent her entire career preparing for threats to Earth and humanity. This was potentially the biggest threat they had ever faced, and waiting for bureaucratic approval could doom both the Coalition and Earth. "Set course for those coordinates." Immediately, Rodriguez ordered, "and send a message to Earth Command informing them of the situation. Tell them we're responding to an alien distress call and requesting immediate backup." "Captain," Blake said quietly, "we're an exploration vessel, not a warship. We have defensive weapons, but if we're going up against something that's destroyed entire star systems, we're going to need a lot more firepower." Rodriguez nodded. "Contact the other ships in our exploration group. The U's Defiance, the UES Courage, and the UES Vigilance are all within communication range. If we're going to do this, we'll do it together." 3 hours later, the 4 Earth ships were traveling together toward the coordinates provided in the alien message. Rodriguez stood in her ready room, looking out at the stars and thinking about what they might find. She had never expected to be the one to make first contact with alien life, but circumstances had thrust her into this role. Dr. Chen entered the ready room, carrying a tablet full of data. Captain, I've been analyzing the rest of the transmission. There's something else you need to know about the Void Swarm. What is it? They're not just destroying the Coalition worlds for resources or territory. According to the message, the Void Swarm consumes all organic matter and converts it into more of themselves. They're like a galactic plague that grows stronger with every world they destroy. Rodriguez felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. How long do we have before they reach Earth? If they continue at their current rate of expansion, maybe 2 years. But if they absorb the Coalition's remaining forces and technology, they could move much faster. Rodriguez turned to face Chen. Then we better make sure that doesn't happen. How are the other ships handling the news? Captain Martinez of the Defiance is eager to help. Captain Thompson of the Courage is concerned about going in without proper authorization. Captain Singh of the Vigilance is worried about our chances against such a powerful enemy. Rodriguez nodded. All of their concerns were valid, but sometimes military commanders had to make decisions based on incomplete information. Tell them we'll know more once we reach the Coalition. For now, we need to prepare for anything. 2.5 weeks later, the 4 Earth ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a system that took Rodriguez's breath away. Before them was a massive artificial structure that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. The space station was clearly alien in design, with flowing curves and crystalline sections that caught and reflected the light of nearby stars. But the beauty of the station was marred by obvious signs of battle damage. Entire sections had been torn away, and the space around the station was filled with debris from destroyed ships. Thousands of vessels surrounded the station, but most of them looked damaged and barely functional. "My God," Chen whispered from his station. "Look at the variety of ship designs. There must be vessels from dozens of different species here." Rodriguez studied the tactical display. These aren't military ships. Most of them look like civilian vessels, probably refugees. Before anyone could respond, the communications system activated. The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything the humans had ever heard. It was melodic and harmonic, like listening to music mixed with spoken words. "Unknown vessels, this is Ambassador Zethkara of the Zarian Coalition. We have been monitoring your approach. Are you the beings from the world called Earth?" Rodriguez stepped forward. "This is Captain Alina Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your distress call and came to offer assistance." There was a pause. Then the alien voice returned, filled with what sounded like relief and desperation. "Captain Rodriguez, you cannot imagine how grateful we are for your response. We had almost given up hope. Please, we must speak with you immediately. The Void Swarm's next attack is only days away." Rodriguez felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. 4 exploration ships against an enemy that had destroyed entire star systems. But looking at the damaged alien station and the desperate refugees, she knew they had to try. "We're ready to help," Rodriguez said. "Tell us what we need to know." Asterisk warriors from the Death World, the docking bay of the Coalition station was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The walls curved organically, covered in what appeared to be living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Ambassador Zethkara waited for them, and Rodriguez was struck by the alien's appearance. Zethkara stood nearly 8 feet tall, with a body that seemed to be made of translucent crystal formations. When the ambassador moved, light danced through its crystalline structure, creating beautiful patterns. "Captain Rodriguez," Zethkara said, its voice resonating through the docking bay like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I am honored to meet the warriors from the Death World. Your reputation has spread throughout the galaxy, though we pray we have not called upon you to. Late Rodriguez extended her hand in greeting, though she wasn't sure if the gesture would be understood. To her surprise, Zethkara mimicked the motion, its crystalline fingers surprisingly warm to the touch. Ambassador, we need to understand what we're facing. Tell us about the Void Swarm. Zethkara's light dimmed noticeably. Come, the High Council is waiting. They will explain everything, though I fear the truth will be more terrible than anything you can imagine. The humans followed Zethkara through corridors that seemed to flow like water, frozen in time. Dr. Chen was constantly looking around in amazement, taking readings with his scientific instruments. Commander Blake, however, was studying the aliens. They passed with a more tactical eye. Captain, Blake whispered, look at how they move. None of them show any signs of combat training or physical conditioning for warfare. They're like civilians who've never seen a fight. Rodriguez noticed the same thing. The aliens they encountered were diverse. Some looked like walking plants. Others resembled geometric crystals, and a few appeared to be made of living liquid. But they all shared one characteristic. They moved with the grace of beings who had never known real danger. The council chamber was enormous, with representatives from what appeared to be dozens of different species. At the center sat High Counselor Veltar, a being that looked like a massive tree with bark-like skin and leaves that changed color as it spoke. Captain Rodriguez, Veltar said, its voice deep and resonant like the sound of wind through an old forest. We welcome you to our final stronghold. I am afraid you have arrived at our darkest hour. Tell us about the Void Swarm, Rodriguez said directly. What exactly are we fighting? Another counselor, this one resembling a giant butterfly with wings. That seemed to be made of starlight, answered. The Void Swarm is ancient, older than our civilizations. They are not like us. They are pure hunger, existing only to consume and grow. They appeared in our territory 3 months ago and have been systematically destroying every world they encounter. What do they want? Chen asked. They want nothing, Veltar replied sadly. They do not negotiate. They do not communicate. They simply consume. Every living thing they encounter is absorbed into their mass, making them stronger. Commander Blake leaned forward. What about your military? Surely, with so many species working together, you must have powerful fleets. The silence that followed was telling. Finally, Zethkara spoke. Captain Rodriguez, you must understand. The coalition has existed for over 1,000 years in peace. We have had minor disagreements about trade routes or resource allocation, but we have never fought a war of survival. Our ships are built for exploration and commerce, not warfare. Rodriguez began to understand the scope of the problem. Show us your fleet. The next hour was both fascinating and horrifying for the humans. The alien technology was incredibly advanced. Their ships could travel faster than anything Earth had built. Their energy systems were centuries ahead of human science, and their computer systems were more sophisticated than anything Rodriguez had ever seen. But as military vessels, they were completely inadequate. The ships had minimal armor, weapons designed for precise scientific work rather than combat, and no redundant systems for battle damage. They were beautiful, elegant, and utterly unsuited for war. This is why you're losing, Rodriguez told the council bluntly. These ships might be marvels of engineering, but they're not warships. Against an enemy that wants to destroy everything, you need vessels that can take damage and keep fighting. The aliens looked uncomfortable at Rodriguez's harsh assessment. Violence was clearly foreign to most of them. Captain Veltar said quietly, "We called for your help because we heard that humans understand warfare in ways we do not. But now that you are here, we must ask, can you really help us against such overwhelming odds?" Rodriguez stood up, looking at the assembled aliens. "The Void Swarm might be powerful, but they have one weakness. They expect you to fight the same, where you always have, defensively, trying to preserve what you have. But sometimes, the only way to win is to risk everything." "What do you propose?" Zethkara asked. "We're going to teach you how to fight like humans," Rodriguez said, "and then we're going to take the fight to them." The next 3 days were a crash course in human military tactics. Rodriguez split her crew among the coalition forces, with each human officer training groups of aliens in different aspects of warfare. The language barriers were overcome by translation technology, but the cultural barriers were much harder to bridge. Dr. Chen worked with the alien engineers to modify their ships for combat. The aliens were brilliant, and once they understood what was needed, they threw themselves into the project with enthusiasm. Within hours, they had designed armor plating that could be quickly attached to existing vessels and weapon systems that combined human destructive power with alien precision. Commander Blake trained the alien military commanders in human tactical doctrine. The concepts were foreign to them. The idea of accepting casualties to achieve victory, the importance of speed over perfection, and the necessity of making decisions with incomplete information. When you're in combat, Blake explained to a group of crystal-like beings, you don't have time to analyze every option. You make the best decision you can with the information you have, then you act. Hesitation kills. The alien officers struggled with these concepts, but they were learning. Their intelligence was undeniable, and their desperation provided powerful motivation. On the 4th day, the Coalition's early warning systems detected the Void Swarm approaching. The enemy force was massive, thousands of dark ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Long-range sensors showed that the Void Swarm ships were organic in nature, like living creatures that had evolved for destruction. There, heading for the Kepler system, Zethkara reported. 2 billion beings live there, mostly refugees from the worlds they've already destroyed. Rodriguez studied the tactical display. The Kepler system was 3 hours away at maximum speed. If the Void Swarm followed their usual pattern, they would systematically destroy every ship and consume every living thing in the system. "How long do we have?" Rodriguez asked. "The Void Swarm will reach Kepler in 6 hours. If we're going to intercept them, we need to leave now." Rodriguez made her decision. "We're not going to intercept them. We're going to let them start their attack, and then we're going to hit them from behind while they're focused on the planet." The alien commanders looked shocked. "Captain, that would mean sacrificing the beings in the Kepler system." "No," Rodriguez said firmly. "It means using the Void Swarm's expectations against them. They expect you to try to defend the planet directly. Instead, we're going to evacuate as many civilians as possible, then use the planet as bait to draw the Void Swarm into a trap." The plan was audacious and dangerous. The Coalition fleet would be split into 3 groups, one to evacuate civilians, one to provide a visible but weak defense of the planet, and one to attack the Void Swarm's rear when they were committed to the assault. Rodriguez took command of the attack force from the bridge of the UES Determination. The ship had been hastily modified with alien technology, doubling its firepower and adding energy shields that could absorb tremendous amounts of damage. "All ships, this is Captain Rodriguez," she broadcast to the combined human-alien fleet. Remember, we're not just fighting for the coalition. If the Void Swarm continues to grow, Earth will be next. Today, we make our stand. The battle began as the Void Swarm entered the Kepler system. The enemy ships were even more terrifying up close. They looked like living nightmares, with hulls that pulsed and writhed as if they were alive. They immediately began attacking the planet's defenses, just as Rodriguez had predicted. All ships, attack pattern Alpha, Rodriguez ordered. Target their command ships first. The human-alien fleet struck the Void Swarm's rear with devastating effect. The enemy had not expected an attack from behind, and their formation broke apart in confusion. Rodriguez watched as alien ships performed maneuvers that would have been impossible for their original designs, using human tactics combined with their superior technology. But the Void Swarm was learning and adapting. The enemy ships began to turn toward the attacking fleet, their weapons charging with dark energy that seemed to eat light itself. "They're stronger than we thought," Commander Blake reported. "Our weapons are having minimal effect on their larger ships." Rodriguez realized they needed a new strategy. "All ships, concentrate fire on the smaller vessels. If we can't destroy their capital ships, we'll eliminate their support craft." The battle raged for 3 hours. Human determination and alien technology proved to be a powerful combination, but the Void Swarm's numbers were overwhelming. Just when it seemed like the coalition fleet might be destroyed, Dr. Chen made a crucial discovery. "Captain, I've been analyzing the Void Swarm's communication patterns. They're not individual ships. They're all connected through some kind of hive mind. If we can disrupt their central command node, we might be able to disable their entire fleet." Rodriguez saw the opportunity. "Where is it?" "The largest ship in the center of their formation." "But Captain, it's heavily defended. A direct assault would be suicide." Rodriguez looked at the tactical display, then at her crew. They had come so far and learned so much. The aliens had proven they could be warriors when necessary, but this final attack would require the ultimate human characteristic, the willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. "All ships, this is Captain Rodriguez. We're going to make one final attack on their command ship. I won't lie to you, some of us won't make it back. But if we succeed, we'll save billions of lives and prove that the galaxy can fight back against the Void Swarm." The combined fleet formed up for the final assault. Rodriguez watched as alien ships that had been built for peaceful exploration prepared to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. In 3 days, the coalition had learned the hardest lesson of warfare. Sometimes victory requires everything. "You have all ships. Attack." The fleet charged toward the Void Swarm's command ship, taking devastating casualties, but never slowing down. Rodriguez watched as the EU's courage exploded in a brilliant flash, taking a dozen enemy ships with it. The alien vessels fought with a ferocity that surprised even the humans, proving that any species could become warriors when fighting for survival. The UES determination reached the command ship first, its alien-enhanced weapons tearing through the enemy's defenses. Rodriguez felt the ship shudder as it took hit after hit, but they pressed on. "Target their central structure," Rodriguez ordered. "All weapons, fire." The command ship's destruction sent shockwaves through the Void Swarm fleet. One by one, the enemy ships stopped moving, their connection to the hive mind severed. The remaining vessels fled into deep space, their coordinated attack broken. Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her damaged ship, looking out at the aftermath of the battle. Half the coalition fleet was gone, but they had won. More importantly, they had proven that the Void Swarm could be beaten. Captain Zethkara's voice came through the communications system. The galaxy owes you and your people a debt that can never be repaid. You have not only saved us, but you have shown us how to save ourselves. Rodriguez smiled, thinking of Earth and the message she would send home. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, and they had done so as protectors rather than conquerors. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but it was also full of allies worth fighting for. Ambassador Rodriguez replied, "This is just the beginning. The Void Swarm will return, and when they do, we'll be ready for them." The victory at Kepler was just the first battle in a war that would reshape the galaxy. But thanks to the courage of humans and the determination of their alien allies, it was a war that could be won. The Deathworld warriors had answered the call, and the galaxy would never be the same.